Hello and welcome to Perspectiva. I'm Philpot. Now, new public polls in the United States suggest that the US war with Iran has become one of the most unpopular American military conflicts in modern history and has reached that level of public opposition much faster than the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan or Vietnam. But according to the recent Washington Post Ipsos poll, 68% of Americans now believe the Iran war was not worth fighting, while only 28% says it was. This is a 40% negative margin, making it even less popular than the Iraq and Afghanistan wars at their lowest points in comparable polling. For comparison, public opinion shifted much more gradually during the earlier conflicts. In Afghanistan, it took nearly 8 years before a majority concluded the war was not worth fighting. In Iraq, it took almost a year for that majority to emerge and roughly 4 years before around 2/3 of Americans reached that view. Now, the speed of the decline is equally striking when the Americans are asked whether the war was a mistake. A Washington Post ABC News poll conducted less than 2 months after the conflict began found that 61% of Americans already considered the Iran war a mistake. By contrast, it took almost 4 years for a similar share of Americans to say the Iraq war had been one. During the Vietnam War, it took more than 6 years for the public opinion to reach that level. And polls also suggest that many Americans believe the conflict has weakened rather than strengthened the US's position in the world. Well, a Quinnipiac University survey found registered voters were more likely to say the Iran war had made America weaker than stronger. The perception mirrors attitudes seen during the Iraq war, although it has emerged much earlier in the conflict than before. Support for the military action has also remained unusually low. Well, according to analyses of the national polling, only around 4 in 10 Americans initially supported strikes against Iran, the lowest level of initial public backing recorded for a major US action in the modern polling era. Now, within just a few months, support fell even further, reaching the mid-30s. Historically, most US military operations have begun with a majority public approval, even when support later declines. However, there is one important difference between the Iran war and the previous conflicts like Iraq and Afghanistan. While Americans largely opposed the war, relatively few considered it the country's most urgent issue. During the Vietnam War, more than half of the Americans at one point identified the conflict as the nation's biggest problem. During the Iraq War, that figure reached more than 1/3, and today, only a small percentage of Americans say the Iran war, and the foreign conflicts more broadly, is the country's top concern. Analysts say that is largely because the conflict has not involved large-scale deployments of US ground troops or produced casualty levels comparable to previous wars. Instead, economic issues continue to dominate the public attention, with concerns over inflation and high fuel prices remaining at the forefront. Even so, rising energy costs linked to the conflict could indirectly shape public opinion and influence political debates ahead of the November midterm elections. Now, the overall picture is clear. The Iran war has become one of the fastest rejected military conflicts in modern American history. While its political impact may differ from Vietnam, Iraq or Afghanistan because it is less central to voters' daily concerns, the level and especially the speed of the public opposition is historically significant. To discuss this alarming situation, we're joined by our guest, Dr. Mohaddesi Haidari, an assistant professor of IR in Iran. Doctor, hello and welcome to Perspectiva. So recent polls suggest the Iran war is one of the most unpopular US military conflicts in modern history. What explains this unusually rapid collapse in public support?
I hope this presentation contributes to a meaningful and, of course, engaging discussion. Thank you very much again. In response to the first questions, I believe it's worth mentioning that any conflicts between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran has emerged in an environment where the American public and the international community witnessed different cycles of negotiations between different administrations of the US and, of course, Islamic Republic of Iran. Then, any attempts to portray war as the only viable option to confront with the crisis in the region is not acceptable by the US public. Moreover, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq memories have reinforced concerns about high human, economic, and political costs of prolonged conflicts around the world. The US people believe that they should avoid from happening these experiences again. At the same time, US people are aware that the next world order is going to be shaped in the near future. Then saving the U.S. legitimacy and of course its power at the global level is very important to confront with any Cold War with China at the world scale.
So how does the public's reaction to the Iran war differ from the way the Americans responded to the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan and Vietnam during the early stages?
A careful examination of public attitudes toward conflicts between the United States and Islamic Republic of Iran, and in comparison with Vietnam, Afghanistan, and of course Iraq wars, reveals several important differences. At first, we face with different perception of the nature of the conflicts, from immediate security concern to the strategic choice. The second one is U.S. public's critical assessment of the possibility and sustainable political outcomes. They are really worried about the political outcomes, and they can't accept any wars and any U.S. actions around the world with any political and economical sustainable outcomes. The third one is about the greater awareness of of course, Iran's historical, political, and geopolitical complexity. They believe that unlike the Vietnam Wars and of course the other wars that they experienced in the past, the Iran wars in Iran, the United States faces with a complex situation, and of course the war with Iran is a multidimensional war that any act and any happening in one side can spill over to other sides and can create a great disaster at global level. The other thing is which is very important, of course, not only for them but also for us and all of the countries which are trying to manage the relations with the United States. Is a generational shift in attitude toward war and the use of military power in the younger age, and of course younger generation in the United States. And finally, we should pay attention to their concerns regarding regional and global consequences. They are very worried about this problem and try to avoid Trump's administration from devastating the war around the world.
Well, polls indicate that a majority of Americans now believe the Iran war was a mistake and not worth fighting. What factors have driven this perception just so quickly?
The first one is the absence of a large-scale deployment of American soldiers to Iran, unlike what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. Then we know, and of course, the war in Iran is known as a war of missiles and war of drones, not war of the soldiers. Then they are not worried about their soldiers' health and like something that they experience in Vietnam, in Iraq, and of course Afghanistan. The second one is the war fatigue, which is created in American society after 2 decades. They are really tired of war and they don't like to experience more such a situation that they saw from in the period of war with Iraq, Afghanistan, and of course Vietnam. The second one is about the domestic issues dominated public attention. The economic concern, inflation, immigration, and of course political polarization are most important issues which shape the American society. Then they try to take care more about these problems, and most of them ask the governments to focus more on American strategy instead of invading the other nations. The fourth is the absence of the 9/11 effect. When Vietnam and of course Afghanistan wars happened, the U.S. society faced with a situation that they were attacked by the terrorism, but now they can't see any attacks, and any offensive attacks by the Islamic Republic of Iran. And they can see the situation that the government is attacking another government and killing their children, killing their soldiers in dormitories. And I believe that it's not acceptable for them and the international community too.
Well, despite its deep unpopularity, the Iran war has not become one of the country's top political issues. Why hasn't it dominated public attention the way Vietnam or Iraq did?
Yes, of course, my friend. The economic indicators are very important for U.S. society. They are very tangible and, of course, sensitive to any small economic changes, unlike someone who are living in the Middle East, Africa, and other parts of the world. The American citizens, but at the same time, it's worth mentioning that the American citizens may not perceive the consequences of the U.S. attack against Iran and the epic fury operation against Iran just through the geopolitical lens. Rather, they are experiencing them through tangible economic indicators like fuel prices and blah blah blah. In the era of extensive global connectivity, they are aware of complex economic interdependencies, which has been significantly expanded around the world. They know any crisis, any small crisis which is happening in the Middle East can shape the future, can change anything around for them and other societies. For example, the war in the Middle East and the Strait of Hormuz can change the energy market, can affect the trade routes, the supply chains, and even a strategic material like helium and other resources which can play an important role in advanced industries, healthcare, and technology. Then they try to change the government decision making about the foreign policy to avoid from the future threats and avoid the future wars and save their lifestyle and save, of course, their lives.
So how much of the war's declining support is linked to its economic consequences, particularly rising fuel prices and broader concerns around inflation?
Personally, I believe that nothing can change Trump's decision, Trump miscalculations, except Israel lobbies and, of course, the economical interests. For example, when the U.S. government decided to attack the southern part of Iran, the U.S. commander had warned to them that if U.S. starts attacking, you can change the Islamic Republic of Iran defensive attacks to offensive attacks, and it will be increased to all of the part of the nation and spill over to other domains. But Trump didn't pay attention to any of these warnings. But the U.S. nation can change their destiny and, of course, destiny of the world by the midterm election. By taking part in this election, they can create different results for Trump administration. And maybe they stop the wars, stop the strategic ambiguity which is shaped by by Trump administration around the world. I believe that by strategic ambiguity and by relying on madman strategy, Trump administration is trying to create an unpredictable atmosphere around the world that no one knows what should do and what is going to happen in the near future. Then any consensus in such a situation, not only in the U.S. nation, but also in other nations, can be shaped against the U.S. and against what is he and his team are going to do for their benefits around the world.
So could the growing public opposition to the Iran war influence Donald Trump's strategy and become a significant issue in the upcoming midterm elections?
I believe U.S. policymakers should pay attention to some strategic points. The first is about our geopolitical situation. I believe that the Iran geopolitics is the most important geopolitical code that can be, of course, a game changer in the future order. I believe that Iran geopolitics, of course, can dedicate the future global order. If U.S. Wants to protect its hegemony and, of course, empower at global level, should know how to behave with Iran and how should and start a negotiation as soon as possible. If not, if the U.S. and its citizens are awaiting to see the change of global order to bilateral system, which will be dominated by China and the U.S., they should wait and they should continue attacking to Iran, and they should try to expand their offensive operations in the region. The second one is the importance of the comprehensive understanding of historical, cultural, and social, and of course, national identities of the nations which they are going to invade to them. If they had enough knowledge about Iran and about their culture, I believe they wouldn't have start attacking to Iran, because after the war, a national convergence was created between our nation, and of course they created an alliance around their leader. The other one is about recognizing the limitation of military power in addressing political challenges. If they want to handle the political challenges in the new era, they should use from non-military, of course, routes, and they should finish attacking. They should finishing using from the military resource and military tools to destroy the nations. At last, not only the U.S. Governments, but also the other actors around the world, they should be aware that we are playing in the same sense, and we are the actors of the same sense. We should know if the crisis in the region continues, we will face with greater dangers in the global political economy. If the war continues, we will face a disaster in global economy. The global economy, the disaster which will shape our futures, the humankind future. Then, as soon as possible, a community should be shaped by the world to stop the war, and I think stop the war and confront with what is US doing about Iran and other nations.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.